Hello, and welcome back to Unofficially Opinionated. This is the second part of a two-part episode. If you want to catch up, go listen to the first part of this episode and then come back. Also, our team has decided to make this podcast profitable. One of our goals is to reach 10,000 followers on Instagram and 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please help us out by following us on Instagram and subscribing on YouTube if you haven't already done so. We thank you so very much for your help. Also, please tell your friends and family so that more people have access to this podcast that you have come to know and love. Now, without further ado, our unofficial opinions.
But all that to me seems beside the point, right? Like any man being compassionate had nothing to do with what I was saying, right? What the point is that society, we view certain things as feminine
Yes.
as a society.
Yes.
So whether a man is compassionate or not, sure, men are, like plenty of men are.
Right.
But I think as a society, we view that act as a feminine thing and not as, oh, he's being a true man. Now that's changing. Right.
Yeah,
but
like, I've never viewed that.
What a man. He really hugged his daughter today. Right. Like that's not the way we view those things. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really look for that from them. Right. Like you're even saying, hey, I've seen some compassionate men where it's like it's something special. Right. When it shouldn't be. Right. It shouldn't be something that we are pointing out about men, because it's just a thing about people, but we've coded it as a female thing.
So I will say that I don't know if I have specifically considered compassion as a feminine quality. I have seen other things that are.
I mean, that may have been a bad
good.
Example of.
Right.
I think it's on the scale. It's probably not the best example, but
right.
I mean, things of emotion, right?
Emotion,
things.
exactly. Yeah, like emotional availability.
Caring,
I agree.
Nurturing.
That is true.
Those are probably better.
I think in that sense, you're probably going to like say crying.
Crying as well.
Guys not supposed to cry. Like. I grew up with kind of, not to the extreme, like I was always taught that everything ain't worth crying about. That's what I was taught. That means, and that always meant to me, yeah, there are times you're going to cry, but you can't be crying about everything because you can't push forward when you're sitting around crying, So I understand, there are guys who are like, guys are not supposed to cry, but I was never taught that extreme.
I mean, I wasn't taught that either, but it's still what society teaches. Right?
Just
because my parents didn't say it doesn't mean I didn't learn it from the way that we socialize everything and all the movies and TV and books. Like it's, most of what we learn isn't like, oh, someone taught me this at home. Right? Like
that's true.
We absorb a lot of things just by entertainment we consume and how our friends act and how we see people interact with each other. Right. More so than, hey, boys don't cry. Like, I think a lot of people are, I'm going to use a current term, woke enough to not say that, but they still have it internalized somewhere and they still pass that along without having to say it.
Right. I'm going to kind of like pivot a little bit because for me, I hear what you're saying. For me, toxic masculinity, like there was this clip from the Daily Show or whatever. Is that where Trevor Noah was?
Yeah.
Was it the Daily Show or whatever? And he was talking with some woman, I think Desi something or another. And she was like, I did you guys see that clip? She was like, I wanted to walk kind of get the feeling of what it meant to live like a man, just make, what did she say? Something like 20, 30, I forgot what it was, like 30% more just for no reason, And then she was like, and she said,
something, and then Trevor Noah responded. He was like, "Yeah, I know it." He was like, "I know what that is. It's something I saw it a while ago, so I don't remember." And then she was like, "Actually, it's not that. It's this." Blah, blah, blah. He was like, "Why are you mansplaining this to me?" You know, like those are the kind of the traits that I see in addition to what toxic masculinity represents in our culture now. Like men do mansplain, and it is something I absolutely detest because it's got this kind of connotation, especially when it's going towards women. And I think men mansplain less to other men than they do to women. With the and it's kind of like this idea that I have to kind of dumb it down for you or explain it to you because you wouldn't get it,
I got a question
sort
about
of
that.
thing. What
is mansplaining exactly?
It's man explaining.
No. That's not what I mean.
Like it's explaining it to someone kind of like they're stupid. It's essentially like it's assuming that
they don't understand.
You have to explain to them to a level that dumbs it down for them, and assuming they already don't understand.
So basically, this is a concept that it sounds like we pull from cartoons. Because here's the thing, I know I'm about to get a whole bunch of hate mail for this, but
ain't nobody sending you hate mail.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
I think it was comment.
Here's the thing. Yeah. That one comment. You wrong. Like all these comments. But no. Okay, see, I've heard people say mansplaining, right? Okay. And I understand, like, okay, now if you're explaining something for the first time to people, okay, if they don't get it, then the second and third time, I mean, when does this become mansplaining? Because I've had people explain something to me, and I've had women mansplain to me about things. And it's
women can mansplain.
Yeah, and they do it all the time, but nobody cares.
One mansplaining.
Nobody says that. But why, they do it all the time, but nobody cares.
Only got to be masculine though.
But it's not. That's what I'm saying.
No, right?
I'm saying describing something with the assumption that person, male or female, doesn't understand. Yes, that sucks, and and I hate when people do that to me. But sometimes, to tell you the truth, I need somebody to break things down for me. But that's me personally. But that's not everybody.
It is as humanity evolves, or continues to live. I don't know if we're still evolving. I hope so, but whatever. But as we continue to live, we have to learn how to speak clearer and be understood better, right?
But doesn't that cross into the line of mansplaining?
No, what I'm saying is I don't know why you would automatically assume that a certain person, because of their gender, doesn't understand the concepts of how to change the tire on a car,
because maybe they've never done it.
Why would you assume that, though?
Yeah, so is the point. It goes to explaining it to a degree to a woman you wouldn't to a man, and not everyone. Not everyone does this, but it's common enough that it's got its own term.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So it's
not just come out the blue.
Every time someone explains something to a woman, it's mansplaining. Every time I explain something in detail, it's mansplaining. But it's the fact that it happens enough times where a man explains it to a woman the way he wouldn't to another man.
But who can say that?
The assumption is that she doesn't understand
but
either the topic or is just dumber than
me. So here's my problem with that, general. Okay? The problem with that. That takes out the person that's explaining this, right? That means you are assuming that this person is explaining to you differently than they would to another person, which you've never seen before.
They do, but no, people have observed it. Like it's something that's been.
But no, if it's experience. But I'm saying it's a very personal thing. Now, if you observed it, that's different. But if some random person walks up to you and you ask them a question and you assuming that they're explaining this to you like mansplaining, where are you getting this from?
So I'll bring it this way. So if you go into a store, you've been, this is your first time in that store,
right?
Tech store,
and you see one of the people following you around watching you.
I'm black. I'm used to that.
Right. Exactly. Now, You don't know for a fact it's because you're black because you haven't seen how they interact with every other person that they've been with that day. But you already know what the situation is. Right?
But
I think this is the same.
I don't jump to conclusions though. So I may, in my head, I may say, okay, this may be the thing, but I'm not going to turn around and be like, "What you following me for? Is it because I'm black? Why are you doing this?"
No, you wouldn't do that.
No, I wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't do that. But you'd wait until something happened, and then you'd be like, "Why are you following me?" You'd wait until you saw him on every other.
Assume that this person is following me because I'm the only black person in the store.
Tim, if they saw you, if you saw this person on every other aisle, you would assume that they were following you.
Okay, so there are assumptions. There are verbal assumptions and there are mental assumptions. Yes, I would have a mental assumption, but I would not verbalize that.
It doesn't matter whether you verbalize it or not. The point is you. No, it doesn't.
The point is you've experienced that.
But just because my assumption is just a reaction that I cannot prove.
You can prove it if you went to other black people and just like, you know what, listen, I was in this other, it was a store.
Doesn't mean that I can. That's
telling me racism doesn't exist. Is that what you sitting there telling me?
What I'm saying is this. Okay, what I'm saying is this. Okay, what I'm saying is this. Just because you and I have the same experience, right? That does not prove that person that was following me was a racist person. It doesn't prove anything about that person. But the person mansplaining or whatever it's called, just because they're explaining it to that person like that just because your assumption doesn't prove anything because you don't know anything about that person.
That's 1,000% true.
Yeah.
Tim, I agree with you 100%. But that fact doesn't mean mansplaining doesn't happen.
I didn't say that.
Or that racism doesn't happen.
No, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying anybody who does that, you can't automatically ascribe that to that person.
Sure.
Is what I'm saying.
But what I guess what I'm saying is to make that argument seems unnecessary because I think we already know that those cases exist where someone explains something to a woman and it's not mansplaining. But
nobody cares about those.
When we talk about mansplaining, it feels like, when there's a shooting and guns don't always. This isn't the time to talk. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're taking us off the topic and off the focus of like the actual problem. I
get what you're saying.
Oh well,
I'm not trying to take us off the topic. I'm not trying to take us off the topic. I'm just saying is this, like I hear a lot of people say this thing, right? And everybody wants to go to just one side of the thing. Let's focus on that. Okay, I don't believe you can fix things just focusing on one side of the issue, because the issues are bigger than just one side.
Tim, I don't know. Sorry, I'm interrupting, but I disagree. Like, listen, there's a problem with men. There's a problem with toxic masculinity. Ignoring it and saying not everybody has this issue is not going to help fix the problem.
There's a problem with people. Women do this, men do this, but nobody cares about when women do it. So we're going to just talk about when men do it. And
when the issue becomes with women, then that is when we will address it.
It is an issue. I've had that happen to me before. If you guys want to go off that same assumption.
Okay. And there's also black people that are racist to white people, but like that's not a societal problem.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's a problem to me. That would be my argument too.
That's an interpersonal problem. It's not like a systemic issue that we need to address as a society.
This is my point. Like, women mansplaining to men has not become an issue because currently we're in this situation where men are the ones technically in control. We're the ones causing all of this negativity to happen.
See, this is okay. So here's the thing. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Okay, but you're really going to sit here and tell me that men are the ones bringing out this negative?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
That's not.
I mean, you can disagree, Tim, but the entire United States of America would probably not.
Look. Here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. First of all, we're humans, right? Okay, and I don't know if you guys heard of this concept. Okay, even in the military, even in the military, right?
Yes.
They keep their units small, no more than 5, maybe 6 people, right? Because they understand that the more people, the more ideas, the more errors, the more so they keep their units small, okay? And meaning is because we are herd thinkers. So just because you say society says this thing, right? That doesn't mean that it's really a thing,
Are
because
you
we
saying
all
that it's not a thing?
society
Is that what
think.
you're saying? Are
What
you
I'm
saying it's not a
No,
thing?
no, what I'm saying is it is a thing, but it's not to the degree that we are pointing it to.
I highly disagree. And not because society is telling me that this is it. It's because I have experienced it on myself,
Hmm.
watching it happen.
Yeah, I've
Right.
had too.
So, yeah. Okay. So then that means it is a thing. Right.
But
And
I've experienced it on both sides. Is what I'm saying.
yes, you have experienced it on both sides.
Hmm.
Right. But it has not become such a abundant issue that it needs to be addressed currently. What we're addressing now is just the fact that men have the ability to stop this, and your defense is no, but women are having this
No, that's not my defense.
are having the same.
I'm not defending anything. What I'm saying is,
Well, that's what it comes off as when you're saying that. I'm saying, like I said in the beginning, if we have this issue
mhm,
currently, we're looking at this issue, we need to address this issue. And my very, very simple resolution is, for example, to mansplaining is don't assume. The saying that we have, if you assume you make it out of you
yep,
and me,
Mm-hmm.
like don't assume,
I agree.
ask them. And this is what I do with my female colleagues. I'm like, I was given this presentation, or we were going to give a presentation. I was talking to them, and my colleague was like, "Oh, how do you do that?" And I was like, my brain immediately went to let's get to the basics. Like let's really just start from the from the bottom and make this clear, so that we're all on the same page.
Hmm.
And I stopped myself and I said, okay, do you know what how to get to this point? And she was like, oh yes, 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 yes. So then I was able to see, okay, this is what her level is. Okay, so we're going to start from here and I'll show her how to do it. I'm not saying I'm like a perfect example, but I was aware that I could have been mansplaining, acting like she didn't even know, because her question wasn't clear. Her question was very simply, how do we get there? So I had to make sure that her question was, or that I understood her question, where she was at, and then bring her to the level that we all needed to be, or whatever.
So I have
Right?
a
That
question.
is a very simple resolution to mansplaining. Don't assume that this person doesn't have this intelligence. Ask them, talk
Yeah,
to them. And this is
but
what I was saying. We
but
just need to communicate. And if women's splaining is an issue, it falls in the same category. Do not just assume that they don't know this. It's not. It doesn't take an exceptional amount of time or energy to just do that. Right?
see, that's what I'm saying. I hear exactly what you're saying. I agree. But what I don't agree on is the terms, the terminology that we call it, because this is a thing that people do to people. So why is it?
Yes, but
But it's called
men do it to
mansplaining
women
because.
more often.
But no, it's not. You telling me
Yes,
you've
it
never had a
is.
woman
Yeah.
come up to you and talk to you like you silly? Really? Act
I
like you
have
don't know
not. I
nothing?
don't think.
I've had it happen.
Here's the thing. If it was equal,
Uh-huh.
okay, there's two scenarios,
Hmm.
right? Either one, it's equal and men are ashamed to talk about it, which
Right.
is a toxic masculinity problem,
Yes, I agree on that
or
one.
two, is not equal,
I think it's the
Right.
second.
right?
I
Which
think
is
it's the
more
first
likely the
one.
case. Like in the same way, that's like saying, again, we're saying, we're getting discriminated against,
Hmm.
and people are like, well, that hasn't happened to me, so I'm not, none of my friends are talking about that, so it's not a problem, even
Right.
though there's a huge amount of people saying, hey, this is an issue, but because you live in X town and none of your
Hmm.
friends have this issue, then it's like, well, it's not really a problem.
No, but that's
Right.
Like,
not
And
what I'm saying though. I'm saying that okay, so there are things that we contribute to men, okay, but it's a society thing. It's when I say society, I'm talking about male and female. something that we do to each other. Okay, people are jerks, and that's how we are sometimes. And there are women who will come up to you and they will explain things. I think a lot of I think a lot of things when it comes to guys, how guys interact with women. I think we in our head we pass a lot of stuff off. Okay, because I don't. I've had these things happen to me, and I just don't care. I really don't, and I pass that stuff off. You know, and in my head, I'm like, okay, you over here talking like I'm stupid. Okay, I'm gonna let you finish or whatever. Done. Okay, but I think men don't talk about these things. Period.
Well,
We just
that's
don't talk about
I
it. I think it's
I
an
don't
issue,
know
but we
because
don't talk about it.
listen, because there's an issue. There's another issue on the flip side. There's another issue that women do to men that men also do to women, but not at such such a degree that it has been recognized as an issue, right? So women will be quick to call men unmasculine or whatever, blah blah blah, and kind of what we consider emasculate a man, which men do not like. Okay, they talk about it, right? And then they adopt kind of toxic masculine traits because of what women have said to them,
I
right?
agree.
So men have done that to women as well, but not to the same, so not to the same degree or not to the same kind of effect, right? So that is also an issue that society is addressing, how women perceive and treat men concerning like masculinity or whatever. We don't see us like flipping the script and saying, okay, well, men are doing the same thing.
We
There are
do.
things that men are doing to women that to a very high degree that women are doing to men, but not as much. So for example, men will I was watching this video about this man who was like, my girl gotta have, I forgot what it was. Just like she got to be making this money, have this child, still look good, be real slim while she carrying the baby, and then after the
Right.
have the baby. There was a guy on a podcast who was like, if she hadn't lost that baby fat within 3 weeks, she's gone. Sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. That is a problem that men are putting on women, and you cannot flip that around. Or if you can flip it around. Like if a man can put on weight, right? And then, but it's not. These are all like varying degrees of conversation, right? So we're addressing as men what we're doing to society to make it a toxic situation, and is there something that we can do to fix it? And you cannot say, I refuse to accept. You say, okay, but women are also doing that. It's almost like this tattletale sort of thing, which also I'm okay with.
I guess. Okay, look.
But it's like this concept where you're just like, I don't want to address my problem until you address your problem. I don't agree with that.
No. So here's the thing. I guess my thing is, I recognize that there are these things are a problem. Don't get me wrong. Don't misquote me and think that I'm not saying that this is not a problem. That it's what I'm saying is, I just don't believe. Like, here goes one of my analogies. If you're gonna,
all right, Tim.
If someone tells you to go outside, you got a plum tree and an apple tree outside, right? And someone says, "Hey,
oh God, you done already lost me. Go
right?
ahead, I'm listening.
Hold on, okay. You got a plum tree and an apple tree outside, right? And somebody says, "Hey, get the dead fruit from out the yard," and you just go out there and pick up all the apples. Did you fix the issue? Is your chore complete?
Oh, I said you lost me. So,
but just with the analogy though, if you have a plum tree and an apple tree, and someone tells you to go out there and clean up all the fruit that fell onto the ground, and you go out there and you pick up all the apples, did you finish your task? Is it complete? Is everything better now?
No, because the task was to pick up all the dead fruit. So if there's dead apples and orange or prunes, you need to
fix the issue by focusing on one tree. So we need to focus on both. It's an issue.
Here's the thing. most things are not equal.
I know.
Right? Like most problems are not equally distributed, right? So the question would be, given that mansplaining has become a term and it's out here, is your assumption that I'm going to say the lamestream media and the left have made it up and are portraying an issue that doesn't exist?
No, I would say I don't say. I'm not saying they made it up. I'm saying that.
Well, it sounds like you're saying that everyone does this.
Yes,
but a group of people are making it sound like men do it more when they really don't.
I'm saying this. The whole thing with this whole thing where you have toxic.
I don't know what you just said there.
Yeah, I don't either.
And while you think about that, listen, there's when this clip that I was talking about with what's his name, Trevor Noah, and she had mentioned getting paid more for no reason. Now, with your argument, if I'm placing it correctly, you'd be like, well, there are women who also get paid more than men. That is not a correct argument, because the issue is that men substantially in the U.S. or sorry, by and large, get paid more than women in the same position in the U.S.
Right.
Like, that is the argument. So you cannot say, oh, but women have the same, on the flip side, it's the same thing. Yes, there are women that make more money than men in the same position, but it is not like it's not an epidemic. It's not an issue. It is, right? And we're trying to fix the issue. We're trying to make it so that as close as we can, men and women, regardless of what position that they're in, if they're in the same position, they will still make the same amount of money. That is what we're going for. So when it comes to mansplaining, it is exactly the same thing. We're trying to get it to, you cannot defend it without, can't say, go ahead.
I'll say this. And so, okay, and when it comes to like money, right? And so for companies, okay, who can fix that issue in the company? Is there anybody?
We're fixing society is the point.
Well, no,
right?
I mean, but you have the company, right? Who can fix that issue with that? Say one particular company. They said they're going to do this. Who's the person that can do that?
The government. Have you heard of Sweden? The way that Sweden tracks salaries?
What I'm saying is this, okay?
Like, they post salaries.
Like, what does the CEO do for this company? Do they not have any influence?
Well, here's the thing: most of them are going to be men, so that goes back to.
But that's not. But that's not exactly true. A lot of the companies now, they're not all men.
Okay,
they're women.
Okay.
The CEOs.
Okay, there's plenty, but if you look at the percentages, right, it's heavily weighted towards men. I'm not saying there's no women CEOs and women-owned businesses, but
I'm talking about like
looking at the problem.
Part of the problem biggest companies right now, a lot, except for like, I'm not talking about exactly with tech, but I'm talking about like, the CEOs are women. Like,
there's
like
some.
like you have like Coca-Cola, you have like Tesla, you have
Tim, I really feel like you're just beating around the
I'm not beating around the bush.
You're not getting
what I'm saying
concept.
Is this. What I get the concept. I get it, but I just don't think that you can fix issues by only focusing on one part of the issue.
But you have to.
Yeah, you
right?
have to.
That's like saying we can't fix racism by focusing on the white part of it. Black people racist too, so we all get racism. Yeah, that's true, but that's not really where we're at. Right?
I know, and that's the problem. Getting to that point.
But and someone to say that to me, like, yeah, well, y'all racist too. Like, that's not like.
Yeah, it's not helpful.
I know it's not. It's not. It's right? No. I get it. Like if someone said it to me, even though I'm saying this right now, it's coming out my mouth. Okay, If someone said it to me,
Tim, you're killing
first
me.
reaction would be, I'll be offended. Yes, I get that. Okay. But like, there is still a part of me that says that humans tend to focus on the things that they're not to fix the issues, or rather the things we consider we're not to fix the issues. So I don't believe that just focusing on what people say guys do and what guys do only, I think that creates a bigger issue than fixes. Because if you're only saying this is the thing that only guys do, then you're taking away any real conversations into, how did this occur? Why is this thing that we consider only guys,
No,
do we
you're
see
not.
these traits anywhere else?
No, you're
I
not.
don't, 'cause
No,
I
you're
don't think it's a
not.
guy. I don't think it's what I'm saying. I don't think it's an inherent guy trait. I think it's a human thing.
No, I think it's a privileged guy trait that we learned and now we do it. And it now sounds like, to me, you're saying it's not as bad as it seems
No,
because
I'm
also
not
the
saying
other
that.
side does it. Okay, so you don't have to be saying that, but I'm saying this is what you are portraying. It
I'm not
is a
trying to
real
say that at
issue,
all.
like toxic masculinity. No, okay, Tim, you don't have to say it.
Hmm.
It's the way that is coming out as you're talking about it that says, you're saying, I heard what you're saying. You're
Hmm.
saying you can't just focus on the guy side. You have to include the woman side. But we cannot do that because the women's side is not the issue, right? We're trying to,
But you
what
can't
we
say that
have,
it's
like,
not,
we have
they're not the
scales,
issue.
right? This is what we have, right? Yeah, can you see my hands?
Yeah.
No, there. Like, we have scales, right? The women's side, the men are the ones that are causing the problem, and the women, okay, they have a problem, it's just not as big,
Or
right? So
you don't
we're
talk about
trying
it.
to we're trying to make it as even as possible, because we're not going to make it perfect, but we can make it as even as possible so that both of us can kind of coexist without being toxic one to the other, right?
So, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm going to ask Tim. So you're saying maybe we just don't talk about it. Why? So we hear a lot about mansplaining. Maybe you don't, but I mean, it's definitely
I
out
hear
there a
about it
lot,
a
and it's a
lot.
thing people are working on. Why would you assume that it's hyperbole and that in actuality they're equal?
So I'll say this. I think,
Yo, we are totally out of time.
I know. I know.
3 more hours.
2 more hours.
Beat it.
To our audience, this is how our conversations be going. Okay?
Sometimes, yeah, right. But no, I'll say this, all right. And maybe maybe this is something that in me, I need to think about more, or I need to pray about. But I just believe that as humans, there are more things that we are alike than there are things that are separate. So I think because we're men, and the history of men, it's easy to adorn a concept to men only. Because what I guess what I'm trying to say is, I hope we're not thinking about this situation when we're thinking as men, as there's the men and then there's the feminine thing, and we're not addressing these things to femininity, or whatever that word is. I can't say right now
This is
because we
this
are
is what
men.
we're saying. We're saying, do you do this? If you're doing this, stop. That's what we're saying.
Okay, but
We're
we need
saying,
to say
I'm
that
saying,
to
do you
everybody.
mansplain? If you're mansplaining, instead of assuming, which is what you said, you're assuming that this person speaks like that. Instead of assuming, just ask questions.
Yeah,
That's
no,
what we're
I agree
saying.
with you. I ask questions all the time that's why, I'm not so quick to talk normally. When I want to make, and I do this with anybody,
Well, I'm not talking about you then, Tim. I'm talking about the vast majority of people
but
who are having this issue, who are men. If you're having this issue, stop it, think about it, ask questions, and then proceed accordingly. That's what we're saying. Like, that is the argument. Stop
and my
mansplaining.
Argument is
fix the salary, huh?
My argument then is this this logic that you are pushing out, which I 100% agree with, needs to be set on both sides of the story.
It's not necessary. Like, so back to the example of the salary, right? It's true that every person should be paid what they're worth, regardless of race, gender, whatever. Right? Like, that's a true statement. Everyone should get paid what they're worth without any bias. Right? But the big problem we see is that women are not getting paid the same. Right? And so to always only ever generically mention, oh, make sure everybody gets paid the same, is to really avoid this big elephant in the room of women not getting paid.
When it comes to women not getting paid the same, I'm not saying that they're getting paid the same at all. No, what I'm saying is there are companies where the CEOs are women. Do they not have any influence on the women in their companies and their pay?
Well, part of this, again, is back to the toxic masculinity. Just because a woman is a CEO doesn't mean women at that company
but then
are
where does
paid equal.
Then where does what determines in that situation? What is who determines how much these women are getting paid? If not the CEO,
the market determines that.
The market.
So because if you are trying to, and government can determine that as well.
So the CEO has no.
Who?
The CEO of this company, they have no say in any of this stuff.
Listen, a CEO is not going to give for the most part. A CEO is they want their company to remain competitive, depending on what the situation is, right? So they are going to. Depending on how the scenario works out, if the market is like women are worth this and men are worth this, they're going to pay women this much and they're going to pay men this much. And if they want to be competitive, they might pay them just a little bit more. Or if they just really just don't care, they'll pay them the market value or maybe a little bit under. Right? Obviously, companies are trying to spend as little as possible and get the maximum amount out of it. So if they know that they can pay less to women, they're going to pay less to women. But if the government, I don't agree with government intervention everywhere, but you asked how could it happen? Sweden does that. So if Sweden, if you see a company, someone who are in the exact same position, two people who are in the exact same position, one's a woman, one's a man, and the man is making significantly more, and he doesn't have any reason to be making significantly more, might even have less like education or experience or whatever, and is still making significantly more, you can take that to court and be like, this is not okay, right? Now, it shouldn't come down to making it a law, but it can happen, right? And that is how you would fix the situation. The same thing happens with racism. It shouldn't have had to come down to making laws, but these white folk wouldn't do what they should have been doing, or the South wasn't doing what it should have been doing. So then we had to go to war, and then we had to make these laws, and then we had to implement them because people weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And it's still existing. The system is still rigged against Black people. Okay. And and unfortunately, we have to have the law come in and play a part where it's saying, listen, you cannot be discriminating against Black people and wherever it can fit. Right. And the same thing, but we can't make a law about mansplaining. I don't think somebody might come up with a method of doing it. But the point is, we're trying to provide a better environment. If you see that you are doing something that is negative towards another person, then stop doing it. Don't say, oh, other people are doing it as well. No, we don't care. We're not worried about those other people. We're worried about us. We're causing an issue. Stop making that issue. That's it. I feel like that is it.
I get what you're saying. Okay. But okay. We talk about different things, right? Like, I'm gonna go off topic for a hot second. and then go back. Okay, you know, like let me ask you a question. As far as black folks, okay, what side on the Civil War did we serve on?
Which
Both
what now?
sides, actually.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. So things are more difficult than just black and white. There's a lot of gray, and
Are
nobody
you
wants.
trying,
So
Tim?
that's one
Listen,
thing.
we're gonna
No,
cut
no.
this podcast off.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for
But what I'm
for the
saying
point.
is what I'm saying is you can't just look at a situation just for one thing. It's bigger than this one thing. That's
Do
all.
you disagree with desegregation, and do you disagree with the abolishment of slavery?
What
Do
I'm
you disagree with
saying,
that?
that's not what I'm
Wait, no, no,
saying at
no,
all.
Tim. Tim, that is a very direct and
Okay, here, I'll say this. As far as what I agree with, okay, I don't believe that Africans or African Americans should have been slaves or anything like that, or that there should have been racism or
okay.
anything.
That's not the
But
question. That's not the question.
I did was the
So
question.
we were slaves. So
Yeah,
that happened. We were slaves,
yeah.
right? Then we had the abolition of slavery,
Uh-huh.
and then we had like anti-segregation.
Then explain to
Do
me.
you disagree with that?
That's not the okay.
No,
No, I do
that
not
is
disagree.
exactly the point, Tim. That's exactly the point.
What
Do
I'm
you disagree
asking.
with that? Because if you disagree with that, right? If you disagree with that, you're saying, "Oh, slavery shouldn't have been abolished." You're saying slavery shouldn't have happened at all. Okay, but unfortunately, it did.
Yeah,
So we can't. That's just it. Okay, let's not do
slavery
slavery
should
again. I
have
agree.
been abolished, but I'm
But
saying, why did we have African Americans on both sides of the war that was part of abolishing slavery?
But because people have
because
different
people, yeah, because people
are
choose.
Because
people.
things are
Yeah.
because things are more than just black and white, and you can't focus on just black and white.
No. You just said slavery shouldn't exist.
Yes,
We decided that we were going to abolish slavery,
yes.
regardless of what these
Look,
other people decided that they wanted,
some black
right?
folks love
It
slavery
was a
because they didn't want to have to go figure out what to do with their life.
No,
Like that's all they
there
know.
were
no.
people that
There were
stayed with their
no.
masters.
That's not
There
what
were
it was. There were black folks that were slave owners as well, and they had farms, and they was trying to get
Are
their.
you trying to
Okay.
tell me that
Yeah.
still makes a difference? It
No, it
doesn't
does
make a
not make a
difference, Tim.
difference. But what I'm saying is we had to recognize that in order to get to those people, we had to talk to the people, the black slave owners too. We had to get them
No.
on the same page.
No, we didn't. We
You
had to say
just throw
we
the ball off.
recognize that this is what I'm saying. This is about mansplaining and everything else. We had to simply say slavery is not a good thing,
Yes, but
and
we had to convince
and we went to.
everybody, not
We didn't
just.
convince anybody. We tried to tell them. They didn't listen, and
Mhm.
we went to war, and the North won.
And we
That's
convinced them
what
with
happened.
bullets.
Yeah, listen, they weren't listening because the North told them we're not doing this.
No,
Not
I
in our
know.
country. We're not doing this. So the point is they addressed a huge issue, regardless of how, one side maybe felt like you were talking about black folks. Maybe so there were some black folks who were okay with it. And but there were the majority of the black folk were like, this is not okay.
No,
We are
yeah, it's
not
not okay. I agree.
we're
So
not animals.
yeah.
We are not less people. And so we had to abolish it. So that's what we're saying. There was an issue. Okay, yes, there was an issue. There were two sides of the coin, but there was one that was far heavier than the
Right.
other.
I agree.
We do not accept slavery.
I
And so
agree.
we got rid of it. The same thing happened with segregation. Okay. You
Mhm.
can't say it was a wrong thing to abolish,
No, I'm not saying at
or
all.
to no, you can't even say, oh, but we shouldn't have, we should have listened maybe to the other side
That's
and
not what I'm
said, well,
saying at all.
the white people had an issue with segregation too. No one can, because the white people did have an issue with segregation.
Yes.
White people were segregating
Okay. Now
themselves,
that's what I'm
especially
saying.
like rednecks. But that wasn't the issue, Tim.
No.
That wasn't the issue.
No.
Like
What I'm
the
saying is
the rednecks still had the rights. They just were
no.
treated
What I'm saying is
poorly.
when we was working for getting our freedom. Okay, it just wasn't black folks. It was white people working with black folks as well. Okay,
Right.
it wasn't just black people just working with fighting the white oppression. No, white folks us as well. They was fighting the oppression. Okay, it wasn't this concept that we can only do things by focusing on one side doesn't work.
No, see, what I think what's I'm gonna use another woke term. What's triggering is that a lot of times what people do is they hear an issue, right, and then they find any example that contradicts that issue to show why it's not really an issue.
I'm not saying it's not an issue,
right? No, I don't think you're doing that intentionally. I'm just saying what's triggering is that tends to happen where it's like, hey, women get paid less. Oh yeah, well my boss gets paid way more, and we do the same thing, and I'm a man.
Okay. Yeah,
so
I get what you're saying.
Really a problem.
No, right? I'm really saying that these are issues
that tends to be used that way to negate the issue and to deflect.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but that's not. I think that's the thing that you guys are putting on me in that sense. But I'm not, because I believe that these are issues that we need to fix. But I believe the fix is not the fix. You get what I'm saying? I don't believe that we'll fix them by doing it this way. I believe there's a better fix. Is what I'm trying to say.
We didn't even discuss how to fix mansplaining per se, but you were
I gave some examples.
It's not real. Well, I think
just don't do it.
What I heard from you was that hey, it's not really an issue for us to focus on because everyone does this thing. So
yes, that is what was coming across.
Yeah, okay.
You said it was an issue.
Yeah, I hear what you guys are saying. Okay, no, I'm not saying that it's not an issue that we don't focus on. I'll say three things. One, I'm saying I don't believe we can just fix it by just fixing it with men, because I think it's a human thing.
It meaning what?
Like, okay, for this one simple thing, mansplaining. I think it's a human thing.
Mansplaining specifically about men.
Yeah, I don't think it's specific. I mean, the terminology is specifically about men.
No, the behavior is men that explain things to women as if they don't understand.
Yeah, but yes. And I'm telling you now, okay, that is a human thing.
Listen, we aren't getting any farther into this
That's
conversation.
all I'm saying.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, we are way over. Call it. And yeah, I am. Yeah, I do. I have to. Yes. No. So we're just gonna leave it at that. Wax the
audience.
The audience. Yeah. Wax the audience. What
do they think?
What they think. Yeah. And that's where we're gonna leave this one.
Yes, I didn't do my job. I'm the moderator here now. Just let it run for an extra almost 40 minutes. But
it's all good. This would probably be 2 parts, so we'll just leave it at that.
Last words? Just kidding.
No, those were our last words.
Last words. Just kidding.
Everybody, like, subscribe. Thanks to Nate, Tim, Jaden Moore for the music. And we'll catch y'all next time.
Yes.
Thanks to Chris for moderating.
Not.
And researching. All right.
Tim.
Bye, Tim.